Well, hello there and welcome to the bedroom of the dollhouse for another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and you Stelfers. Pretty slick there with how I retrieved the book, right? For January 10th, the day of the hard look. And here at the top of the page is a visual representational image of the day of the hard look. We have an image of, might as well make this one pretty haphazard too. What is it? Boom! It's a visual representational image of a Duality cat holding some kind of flower. Couldn't tell you what the breed is or the species of flower there because I'm not a botanist nor a florist or whatever the person who studies cats may be. Terrestrial biologist there perhaps. But that being said, is that adequate representation? I don't know if that's an adequate representation of the hard look, though it's probably a little hard to look at such things. That being said, not altogether all too important. No, what's important here is it's January 10th, and hence it's got to be somebody's birthday. And if it's your birthday, I just want to say happy birthday. That's what's important around here. Wishing you a happy birthday. Now, sometimes these videos find folks late, and if that happens to be the case here, I just want to say in that case, hope you had a happy birthday. Now, there's other people who like to join us randomly, ideally to celebrate the January 10th birthday, but if they're just here out of curiosity, that's fine too. And if that's the case, I just want to say hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Now, before I dive in with the redirect, something I like to do around these here parts, and that is roll some dice. That's right. This is the DykASSt O Birthday broadcast, so I like to live up to the namesake, but I do so more importantly for synchronicity's sake. And here I rolled a 5 and a 2 for a 7. Now, what is synchronicity? You're more than likely wondering. Well, my friends, a lot of times as we're going on through the world, getting on with our everyday goings on, we're very singular or laser of focus. We kind of got the blinders on to things going on around us. And as I've heard it told, the universe or the powers that be will actually put things in our path to help us realize our goals and aspirations. But if we got the blinders on, we might not necessarily see those things. We might just happen to pass them by. And so this is an exercise in dropping those blinders. That's right. By looking for a sign, we can't help but notice. That's right, your daily numbers. Now, you don't have to go with the numbers I rolled for you. The intention is there, but you can roll your own. That said, you should probably take your own set of dice. You can ascribe directional values to number sets and also time limits with which to go in those directions. That is, if you decide to try this out for yourself. That's right. You get out there in the world, find a spot maybe you like, maybe downtown, say, and get your directional values, your time limits, your number going, and you roll some dice and you set off, all right? And if you do this, hey, just make sure you get those blinders off. And why do I say that? Well, outside of what I said previously, the day might start to take on a theme. If you're leaving things up to the universe to kind of deem where you go. And it might start introducing things into your life just to kind of test you, perhaps, or to show you you're on the right path. Hey, who's to say? You might start seeing some interesting patterned cats there. I don't know that they're necessarily going to have like the duality patterning, if you like, but who's to say? That's a great example of something that can happen. Multiple cats crossing your path as you're going on through the day. That having been said, let's say that's not the case just yet. All right, so let's say nothing seems to have been happening on your first little jog here, maybe the first couple. But you know what? At the end of your next time value, well, stop, compose yourself, and look around, all right? Just go easy on this thing, It takes time for the universe to line things up for you, potentially. Hey, maybe take a look and see where you are. It might just so happen the road sign there, the cross street you're on, might just be, I don't know, 5th and 2nd. I don't think that works out, but it might be 52nd Avenue, something like that. So I would say take that as a sign to show you that you're on the right path. And who's to say? Maybe you didn't necessarily take the time to compose yourself on the previous little stops there. There might have been things that escaped you. That's right. You got to be paying more attention there, I might say. That having been said, hey, roll yourself another time value. You've got it figured out now, and maybe at the end of this one, you just so happen to stop in front of, I don't know, the number a 52 bus. That's right. Maybe it's right there stopped and waiting. And maybe you just so happen to have perfect change in your pocket to ride the thing. Hey, Ostensibly, you don't even like to ride the bus. So you know what? I would say the universe is giving you a little bit of a test here. Are you going to jump on, or are you going to, I don't know, chicken out maybe? I don't know. Hey, you know what? Get on the bus, see what you see. Maybe just roll your time value to see how long it expects you to be there so you can get off as soon as possible. But hey, maybe right when you get on there, you notice somebody's wearing some kind of sports jersey, and it happens to have the old boom, 52 on the back, or the 7. I don't know. I would take that as a sign again. Either you're in the right spot, or maybe you should keep your eye on this individual. Maybe get off the bus when they do. And in that case, who's to say how long you'll be riding that thing? But if you decide to go that way, put your faith in the universe to that end. Maybe when you get off the bus, roll yourself time value to find out how long to follow them for. Because you can let them lead the way in these cases. That's it. Maybe give them a little bit of a buffer. But hey, maybe they catch you stalking them there. Hey, you shouldn't have been stalking individuals. Or you should have put more of a buffer in between. Hey, if that kind of thing happens, you know what? Just be open up front with what you're doing. Show them your dice. Show them this video. It might just so happen they might go, that's crazy. And you go, I know. Hey, I'm not some loon out here. They go, no, not you. Rolling dice and following the universe. It's my birthday too. Oh, you know, I like to use that example a lot, but it's just that kind of craziness that might just so happen, all right? And if that's the case, hey, maybe it just made you new friends, and you guys can go about your day manifesting more universal signs. That's right, because I've also heard it told that when you get more people together focused on the same thing, you're apt to manifest better or greater results, maybe even more often. That being said, get out there, see, taste, touch, feel, smell, intuit some of the magic, and you'll understand why I bring this up for you. Maybe you'll see some interesting things like a duality cat. That's right, though I don't bet on it. Having been said, I think you get the idea of synchronicity there, so get out there and have some fun on your birthday, all right? Let's get on with the read here. Your month is January, your day is the 10th, your sign is 19 to 21 degrees, Capricorn of the Capricorn III period specifically, and your quality and elements is Cardinal Earth. All right, and January 10th, the day of the hard look. Those born on January 10 are realists first and foremost, and capable of taking a hard look at most any situation, sizing it up and acting accordingly. Rarely prey to false optimism, dreamy hopes, or visions. They are somewhat proud of their realistic assessment of things. And whether they are sensitive people or not, January 10 people do not let either their own or other people's sensitivity get in the way of telling it like it is. Uncompromising in their views, those born on this day are not accustomed to sugar-coating the pill or honeying their words. Things simply are the way they are. Take it or leave it. January 10 people may thus be accused of being blunt or undiplomatic, but rarely of being dishonest. Even their detractors have to admit that they do not operate by a double standard. They apply the same strict and unyielding standards to themselves as they do to everyone else. Not necessarily analytical or critical types, it is more their own forthright views and uncompromising attitude that can bring them into conflict with others. And indeed, most born on this day do not hesitate to flaunt unpopular opinions or behave in a manner at odds with convention, particularly when they feel that the dictates of convention are unwarranted or unreasonable. Not all January 10 people are exhibitionistic or colorful, however, and some prefer to hesitate their no less realistic Some prefer to understate, rather, their no less realistic worldview, or perhaps on occasion keep silent where others would speak. And in that silence, however, they can convey the heaviest brand of judgment, and simply by withholding their approval, endorsement, or enthusiasm. And January 10 people are not averse to leadership roles, but dominating a situation even from behind the scenes is usually good enough for them. And in personal combat, their attacking style need not be a waiting in there and landing of first blows. They are very good counterpunchers and know how to wait for their opportunity. And because they are good at eliciting desired reactions from people, they often maintain the upper hand right from the start. And when hurt by an opponent, or for that matter a friend, they may reveal little of the pain they suffer. And it seems as if very little surprises January 10 people, and indeed they enjoy living as if prepared for anything. Yet, of course, they have their vulnerabilities. And like anyone else, they wish to be appreciated and admired by those who are close to them, and perhaps by a wider circle as well. But they have few insecurities in this respect, and consequently do not display an overt need to be liked. Respect is something else, however, and they do demand, perhaps too often, in an overt fashion. One weak spot of January 10 individuals is that they are rather thin-skinned when unfavorably compared to others. Prone to jealousy in this area, those born on this day are likely to reveal their Achilles heel, even when only indirectly challenged by their rivals or competitors being praised. In such an event, they should just learn to laugh, shake it off, and forget. All right, quite the interesting birthday breakdown. I would say it was rather narrow focus, but there's a reason why that usually happens on these 10 and number 1 days, which we'll get to here shortly. That being said, within that narrow scope, or that narrow focus there, I think they provided a lot of interesting things to focus on and a lot of value within that narrow scope. So that being said, like I said, I'd like to provide a little bit of a commentary. So hey, let's dive into some notes, all right? January 10, day of the hard look. All right, you are realists who take a hard look at almost any given situation. And you make appropriate decisions. And you make level-headed, objective decisions regardless of how you may approach reacting to the day-to-day life. All right. You don't know you don't allow your own personal responses or that of others to influence the broader picture. And you won't be swayed in that regard either. All right. And you're said to be blunt and undiplomatic toward those ends and rarely dishonest or overly optimistic. All right. The likes of which seems almost otherworldly that you can compartmentalize and abide by such hard-lined delineations by my mind. Initial impressions, however, I think it's the first time I've seen the word undiplomatic written in the book, which for someone who's so blunt, as the reading said, it's kind of interesting that they presented it in such a way. Maybe you'd appreciate that there. I know I do. All right, so you also seem to hit all the trademark Capricorn traits, which is very interesting, and with a pointed emphasis, I would argue. All of which can bring you into conflict with others, the reading said. And I would say it's understandable. Having said that, I love that the reading claims even with your detractors, they can't deny that you don't hold yourself to the same strict standards that you apply to everybody else, all right? They mentioned respect, and I would say that's something you can respect. To which I'd say all aspects of such behavior are admirable, even if they're not appreciated, all right? At least in their utilization. Very interesting dynamic there to that end. It also speaks to the power that you're capable of brandishing, I would say, especially if this example of your silence and what it possesses, to say the sway that the reading purports there, how it influences people or controls them to some extent. At least that's if that's any example. Furthermore, I'd argue that you know your power and you don't feel the need to necessarily prove it. At least that was my take from it. both in terms of being fine with running things behind the scenes and capable of eliciting desired results from people. But you also know how to take pain and suffering on the chin and how to wait for the ideal opportunity to respond in kind. And by my mind, at least. And I'm also thinking you might be the sort to know if it's even required to have such a response, especially the physical type there. Writ large, you seem to be at the pinnacle of the Capricorn qualities so far, okay? And you're still human to that end. So you're possessing insecurities, jealousies, and inherent desires to be admired and appreciated. For, like I said, a very interesting birthday breakdown, despite it being somewhat narrowly focused. Like I said, we're going to get on with that as we dive into your numbers and your planets. All right, let's explain some things here. Those born on the 10th of the month are ruled by the number 1, as 1 plus 0 equals 1, and by the sun. And those ruled by the number 1 like to be first in what they do, which in the case of January 10 people often means putting themselves in control of a given situation. And the sun tends to grant the qualities of a warm and well-developed ego, and a distinctly human, positive orientation to life. However, January 10 people as Capricorns are also ruled by the planet Saturn, which tends to rein in the sun's radiance, as well as harden it. And those ruled by the number 1 have strongly defined views on most subjects. And indeed, January 10 people can be extremely stubborn. All right, here. What did I have to say about your numbers and your planets? All right, back to the notes here. The number 1 in the sun for qualities of putting yourself in control of situations and a warm and well-developed ego. Based on the breakdown, I would be apt to agree. But also a distinctly human, positive orientation to life. All right, sun-ruled days. All right, and this is what I was trying to explain earlier. But I couldn't get ahead of the ball, right? Sun-ruled days are particularly famous in the book, at least by my read, for taking a very specific quality and then drilling down on it with a hyper focus for how it relates to the rest of your life, all right? And I would argue that dynamic holds true here with your hard look at things, all right? It is true that this period has been taking a similar approach with all the other days as well. But I can't help but feel that's a Capricorn anomaly for some reason. Or maybe the authors just got tired of trying to be well-rounded with everything. When I say well-rounded, I mean they will, on a lot of the other days, they would look into like what you're like with your family, what you're like with your friends, maybe what your childhood was like, and maybe what you're like as parents. Very well-rounded. But these sun number 1 days, it's always just one particular aspect, and then they branch out from there. And they might just kind of touch on those other things. You might shoehorn in there a little bit, but they don't go into very much detail. And so that's what I mean here with a very narrow focus. That being said, Saturn's influence is purported to rein in a bit of the sun's fire and ostensibly harden it, as the reading says. And while it may seem to constrict some of the sun's usual qualities, there's no mention of conflict or the frustration it seems to impart on a lot of the other planets. You know, they mentioned some of the human qualities and stuff for you there, but I don't know if that really speaks to the conflict that Saturn likes to impart with some of the other planets. But you know what? Might just have to take it for granted that they're saying that's what's happening. The Sagittarius Capricorn cusp, Saturn was coming in and mixing up all sorts of interesting dynamics there, specifically with optimistic planets. The optimistic planet Jupiter, it really had it turned people's life into a little bit of turmoil there, more or less. Here, they're saying that's kind of the same deal, but I don't know. Maybe that contributes to some of that stubbornness. But if you do have some frustrations in your life and you have a leaning towards astrology, that might be the reason why. Who's to say? I'm no expert myself. I'm just going by what I've been reading in the book. So, in any event, that's been your numbers and your planets. So, let's dive in with your tarot. That's right, one of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies. But hey, it's here in the book. It's your birthday. We don't have to take it home with us to start dealing out the cards, predicting our future and the like. So, let's see what it has to say. What we got? In the major arcana, the 10th card is the Wheel of Fortune, which symbolizes the ups and downs, wins and losses, and successes and failures in life. And the card signifies a reversal in fortune and teaches that there is nothing permanent except change. All right, hey. That wasn't too difficult, now was it, for those of you who wouldn't want to hear as much? Yeah, this has got to be the shortest tarot card entry I've seen. Even other Wheel of Fortune days, they got a couple more sentences in there. So let's see if I can pick up a little bit of the slack there for you. All right, the Wheel of Fortune, a once-a-month card. Not much is often said for this card, but this entry has all of the fat trimmed, all right? If there even was any on the bone to begin with. Said to represent wins, losses, successes, and failures, and to remind that nothing is permanent but change. What isn't related but has been in the past is that those ruled by the number 1 and 10 are pre-geared for seizing opportunities and acting at just the right time. And the wheel in this regard helps remind that no success or failures are permanent. And I would say this is a rather apt card based on the breakdown in that respect. Insofar as it may be important to remember, change and failure are inevitable, okay? Despite how thoroughly you assess the problem or how hard you might just so happen to look and force the issue. But you do often seem to be the agent of said kinds of changes, so kind of interesting in that regard. I might just throw a little bit more of an apt relation to the card if you're the one creating all the change there. In any event, like I said, rather sparse tarot entries, so hopefully I contributed a little something more of value to it for you. Before we move on to your health. All right, your health. Here we go. Those born on January 10 are apt to harden themselves in an overly realistic, anti-sentimental stance, perhaps in the process of burying their emotions and sensitivities. They may come to suffer from all sorts of rigidity, both psychological and physical, and as they grow older not only suffer defects of posture, arthritis, restricted muscular movement, neuralgia, not quite sure if I'm saying that right, and the like, but also suffer tightness in the chest or the bowels. And these may all be symbolic of a kind of armoring which they must break through. Perhaps in extreme cases, trying Reikian therapy, Rolfing, rebirthing, or other aggressive procedures. For them to remain vulnerable and display their feelings openly is something to strive for. January 10 diets should be kept light, fun, and colorful, rather than dark and heavy. A well-lit sunny home is strongly recommended, if possible, with plenty of fresh air. And as far as exercise is concerned, January 10 people often prefer intense or highly athletic activities, but should also consider more social forms of exercise, such as dancing. Well, all right. There's your health entry. Let's see what I had to say for your health. You're apt to harden yourself to otherwise the softer side of things. The reading claims you may be subject to rigidity both physically and psychologically. The reading mentions a variety of newly mentioned methods to break through your armor. Things I'd never heard of, I had to look up, but some of the commonalities to those alternative medicines or pseudosciences, as it's claimed, are breath and energy work. And also just doing some pretty extreme stuff to maybe try to break through. Think like primal scream kind of stuff, all right? But I wasn't given the impression you'd be the sort of individual to entertain such things, like metaphysical ideas or pseudosciences. So I'm surprised that they're mentioned in the they're mentioned here when meditation or things like massage or acupuncture, they might be something to maybe drill down on, more realistically. But now the problem being now whether they're able to break through that so-called armor, that's probably the issue there. But maybe those aren't, maybe they're not serious enough to really break down and break through to the psyche. So maybe that's why they mentioned the Rolfing and the Reiki and stuff. But they said light, fun diets, intense activity for exercise, and in general, a lot of activities that are probably counter to your hardened approach. That's right, like dancing. So something to kind of get you to break down those things you might find uncomfortable, I would argue. That having been said, that's been your health. So let's move on to some advice. All right, let me get the book relined here so I can stay in frame relatively. Your advice, keep it light and have fun. All right, and let your guard down occasionally. Okay, carrying all that armor can be pretty tiring. Take a back seat once in a while and just enjoy the ride. All right, and allow yourself to need and be needed. All right, hey, what I have to say here about the advice. Let's say they, where do we go here? They said keep it light and have fun. All right, and surprisingly for some, it can be hard to do. It's hard to do for some, or a process to open up to the idea, let alone going after and doing as much. You know what? The idea of having fun sounds good, but sometimes it's hard to figure those things out. Understandable. Hopefully that doesn't apply to you, but I understand for some folks it's just they don't find anything fun. So you know what? At least try doing it if you happen to be one of those individuals. Because you know what? Might as well give it a try. Maybe one of these days you find something that you're like, hey, this is what fun is? Interesting. I can get behind this. Let's keep it light. I should have been doing this from the start. Take a back seat and enjoy the ride. All right. It can be liberating and I don't know, to find center sometimes is such a thing. Another process to work up to also, again, if you don't know how to do that kind of thing, to take your hands off the wheel and let somebody else drive. But like I said, it can be liberating, so give it a try. Also, sometimes we can just hang out in the back seat, chill out. And one of the things I like to do, sit at the front of the boat and let somebody else just take the wheel. Because then when you're sitting up on the bow, you know what? It's like you're flying almost because you can't see anything else in front of you and you're right over the top of the waves. Anyway, I digress. What else they got here? Allow yourself to need and be needed. All right? It's possible to get through life largely dependent on yourself. But there are joys that you'll be missing out on that you don't have to be dependent on yourself. I mean, that's right. So maybe that's the joy. You got to find a little bit of reliance on other folks, letting them take the wheel. Man, that sounds like that's what the advice was all about the whole time along. Any event, that's been your advice. A little disjointed there with the whole thing. I should work on my penmanship. That having been said, let's move on to your meditation. That's right. It's your birthday. You get a meditation. All right, here we go. Opening one's heart can be accomplished either surgically or spiritually. All right. Yeah, I like this one for you. All right, one more time here. Opening one's heart can be accomplished either surgically or spiritually. All right. That's your birthday, your meditation. I'm not going to throw my interpretation or spin on it for you. That's your birthday. It's just for you. Also wouldn't do you any good if I was to tell you what it meant, because that's what it means to me, not you. That being said, your meditation in the can, as it were. Let's move on to your strengths and your weaknesses. That's right. Let's hold up the objective mirror, see where you got the bulk and where you're ostensibly otherwise atrophied. That's right. Your strengths and weaknesses. Your strengths. Ooh, he's got this one in the can. You're tough. Oh, I see that one. You're authoritative. And you're realistic. All right. I think we knew those ones, though not necessarily in those terms. But your weaknesses. Oh, let's hold up the objective mirror, but flip it to the side. It blows up your face. That's right. It shows off all your superficial insecurities there, your vulnerabilities that you have, but you won't admit to. That's right. Because of all the armor. That's right. Your weaknesses. It says you're insensitive. You're armored. Hey, we knew that one. and you're jealous. Oh, I don't think I picked up on jealousy there. I must have breezed over it to some extent. Hey, you know what? A lot of times I like to argue our weaknesses, hey, they can be improved upon with our strengths, all right? You're tough, authoritative, realistic. Hey, you're going to be able to rise to the occasion and break down insensitivity. Break down the armor, too, if you've got the authoritative realism behind you and the toughness there, so to speak. Though I'm just spitting words at this point. That being said, I often like to argue that our weaknesses aren't, they could be strengths as well. All right, it just depends on the situation. I would say armor is necessary in a lot of cases. All right, when you're going against someone else who's tough, right? Especially if you're in the board meeting or whatever the case may happen to be, an enemy, an aggressor. Hey, you got to have some of that armor, and you got to be insensitive to the jabs that they're throwing at you, right? Jealousy, though, I don't know. Well, maybe that helps keep you on your toes. A little bit of awareness in that regard. But I argue that because a lot of times, maybe not a lot of times, but I see the strengths and weaknesses trade positions depending upon the day and the individual. Where once it was a weakness, the next day it's a strength. That having been said, I think you can get over your weaknesses if and you really want to. But I also like to argue not to get rid of them altogether because they make us who we are. That's right. But your strengths and weaknesses having been relayed, let's move on to those born on this day. And when we get into those born on this day, I often like to not only see who shares your company, what lottery you drew if you like, but focus on the idea of figuring out our passions. Too often I get out in the world and meet folks and ask them what they do and more importantly if they like it. And a lot of times they don't. And I don't think you can blame people. It's just like you get out of school, you got to get in that job to make ends meet. And so it's not necessarily something you like, let alone gravitate towards. But you stay there year after year because you're used to it. It's easy. You're climbing that corporate ladder. The paycheck's getting bigger. There's a lot of incentive to stay into it. But I would say at the root, the fundamental flaw is it's not something that you have a passion for. And you know what? Sometimes we don't even know what our passions are. And so I think it's important that we focus on that approach. I think we need to figure out, I don't know if we need, but we probably should, if we want to find some kind of fulfillment in this life that we really can get behind, we need a purpose, all right? And so I think this is the perfect opportunity to not only see who shares your company, but what they did to get in the book. That's right. And I know it's a big-ass tall order to take inspiration from someone else's accomplishments, but hey, maybe me putting the bug in your ear about as much going to help you stir up the fires. Because if there's anything I can wish for you on your birthday, it's that you're chasing after a passion, jumping out of bed in the morning to get after your day, and just do something that you find personally fulfilling. Like I said, I think you get the point, so let's dive into it, all right? We have Andreas Vesalius, I'm probably saying that one wrong, a Belgian-born 16th century founder of modern anatomy and a master dissectionist, a writer of De Humani Corpus Fabrica. We also have Max Roach, a jazz drummer, composer, conductor, educator, and a band leader. We also have Jim Croce, singer and songwriter, and died in a crash. Famous for Time in a Bottle, if you like. We have Sal Mineo, a film actor, stabbed to death. Coming bringing up all the dead folks here. George Foreman, the world heavyweight champion in boxing there, an Olympic gold medalist, and made a comeback in his 40s. We have Rod Stewart, British singer-songwriter. We also have Donald Fagen, a singer-songwriter of Steely Dan fame. We also have Walter Hill, film director of The Warriors, Southern Comfort, and a scriptwriter. We have Pat Benatar, the rock singer, Robinson Jeffers, a poet. We also have Dario Rubin, a Spanish poet, Ray Bolger, a dancer, singer, film actor, and Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. That's who that was. We have Cheryl Milnius, Metropolitan Opera lead, baritone. We also have Galina Yolanova, Yelanova, a Russian ballerina. We also have Willie McCovey, a Giants baseball slugger, National League 3-time home run leader, and 2-time RBI and an MVP. We also have Linda Lovelace, the porno actress of Deep Throat fame. We also have Paul Heinried, a Viennese-born film actor. We also have Johnny Ray, a 50s teen singer. Alexander Bayev, a Russian molecular biologist and a geneticist. And we also have Alan Eager, a jazz tenor saxophonist. And you know what? It seemed like there was a time here in the book when every day they had a jazz saxophonist, and it's been like a month since we had one. So you bucked the trend. All right, I love it when that happens. I butchered myself a lot of names there today, so let's make up for it on my side of things. It's not done in malice, folks. I just can't pronounce things oftentimes. The old hooked on phonics doesn't work for me oftentimes, like I like to say. But in any event, that essentially rounds out your birthday read, with those born on this day having been relayed. Like I said, I know it's a big-ass tall order to try and take inspiration from someone else's, accomplishments. But hey, maybe me just putting the bug in your ear about as much help you fuel the fires. That's right. Because like I said, if there's anything I can wish you on your birthday, it's that you're chasing after a passion. But if you've got one, maybe it's difficult to figure out how to make it viable financially. Hey, you know what? Me putting the bug in your ear about as much gets you chasing after putting in the time to figure that out for yourself. All right. That having been said, like I said, that essentially rounds out your birthday reading. Except to say your season is winter, your sign once again is Capricorn, of the Capricorn III period specifically. And your quality and elements is Cardinal Earth. And what does that mean? Well, that's a different video altogether. I'll leave it at the end for you to check out if you're interested. But this has been January 10th, the day of the hard look. And we definitely took one, didn't we? From The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and you Stelfers. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description if you're interested in picking up your own copy, diving in further. Though you didn't seem like the metaphysical, astrological type, hey, who's to say? But this thing makes a great coffee table book and a party starter if you're out looking for something to break the ice at a party. So you don't even have to believe in this stuff. But if other people do, you know what? It's going to get the conversation started, for better or for worse, and get the ice broken in a figurative or literal fashion, considering its girth. That's right. With that having been said, the book having been relayed, what's more important here is, once again, wishing you a happy birthday. So once again, happy birthday. And for everybody else who joined us, I just want to say, I hope you enjoyed yourselves. You took something from this and you got excited for me to read your birthday reading. That's right. So hopefully we'll see you over there. That having been said, lest I forget, your daily numbers. That's right. I didn't have the best story to tell you here with that one today. Sometimes I just, it's a one-shot, one-take. Sometimes I don't have them. But that having been said, get out there. Let the universe show you it's with you on your path. See, taste, touch, feel, intuit, smell a little bit of the magic. You'll understand why I suggested as much. But at the very least, even if you don't see anything, make any kind of synchronicities or, coincidences, at least you're getting in a little bit of that light to moderate exercise that they recommended. That's right. But you're bound to see something, I reckon. That's right. So get after it and have some fun. You know what? Like I said, just have a happy birthday, all right? So once again, happy birthday. Take care of yourself, and I really appreciate you sharing your time with me. It's been a pleasure. Take care of yourselves.